Bears just lived their worst nightmare in Green Bay. The youngest quarterback on the team threw a devastating interception on 4th down with less than 30 seconds on the clock. But that's not all. The franchise's highest-paid receiver disappeared from the field like he was invisible. Just one catch. -4 yards. And to top it off, a 7-time Super Bowl champion publicly destroyed the rookie's decision on national television. This isn't just a loss. It's a total collapse that could cost Chicago the playoffs. And it all exploded in the last few hours. Sunday at Lambeau Field will be remembered as one of the darkest days of the season for the Chicago Bears. With the score 28-21 in favor of Green Bay and less than 30 seconds on the clock, Caleb Williams had the opportunity of his life. 4th down and 1 yard. The red zone. The perfect moment to prove why he was the first pick in the draft. But instead of glory, he delivered a brutal interception that sealed the defeat and left all of Soldier Field heartbroken. Tom Brady, who was calling the game for Fox Sports, showed no mercy when analyzing the play. The 7-time Super Bowl champion was direct and devastating in his criticism. Brady explained that the Bears were trying to execute a 2-level pattern. The first option was running back DeAndre Swift in the short flat, but the Packers covered him perfectly. That forced Williams to look for tight end Cole Kmet as the second option. And here comes the worst part. Brady confirmed that Williams had Kmet open early in the play. He had him, but the rookie held onto the ball too long. That split second of hesitation gave Green Bay's cornerback, Kaiser Nixon, enough time to read the play, undercut the route, and steal the interception that saved the game for the Packers. Brady's words were like a punch to the gut for Bears fans. The legendary quarterback didn't just point out the technical mistake, but also highlighted the lack of decision-making under pressure. Williams, who had completed 13 of 21 passes for 154 yards and 2 touchdowns in the second half, couldn't close the game when it mattered most. And that's exactly what separates great quarterbacks from those who are still learning. After the game, head coach Ben Johnson tried to defend his quarterback. Johnson said he was hopeful they could get at least 1 yard on that 4th down play. He liked the call because it allowed Caleb to get to the perimeter and use his legs, something the rookie has done exceptionally well all season long. But in the moment of truth, Green Bay just made the game-winning play. And the Bears were left empty-handed. Williams also spoke after the game. The young quarterback admitted he should have given Kmet a better shot at catching the ball. He acknowledged he needed to lead his receiver with the pass instead of throwing it directly into coverage. It's a sign of maturity that Williams takes responsibility. But apologies don't change the outcome. The Bears dropped to 9 wins and 4 losses, and now they're in a desperate battle to maintain their playoff position. What makes this loss even more painful is the context. The Packers, with 9 wins, 3 losses, and 1 tie, now lead the NFC North Division ahead of the Bears and the Detroit Lions. Green Bay has complete control of their destiny. Meanwhile, Chicago must win every remaining game and hope other teams stumble. The pressure on Williams and the rest of the offense is immense. Brady also pointed out something crucial during his analysis. He said he liked Johnson's call because it gave Williams options. But in professional football, having options means nothing if you can't execute under pressure. And that's exactly what failed on Sunday. Williams had the opportunity, he had the talent, he had the scheme, but he didn't have the mental coolness to close the game against a divisional rival in a hostile environment. Bears fans are furious. Social media exploded after the game with criticism toward Williams, toward Johnson, and toward the offense in general. Some are calling for immediate changes in the game plan. Others are questioning whether Williams is truly ready to lead this team to the playoffs. And the truth is, this interception is going to haunt the rookie for a long time. But here's the reality. Caleb Williams is 23 years old. It's his first season in the NFL. He's going to make mistakes. The question is whether he can learn from them fast enough to save the season. Because with only 4 games remaining, there's no margin for error. The Bears face the Cleveland Browns at home next Sunday, followed by a primetime showdown against the Packers at Soldier Field on December 20th. Those 2 games will define the season. And meanwhile, Tom Brady will keep analysing every play from the broadcast booth. And if Williams fails again in the critical moment, you can be sure Brady won't show mercy, because in the NFL, mistakes cost games, and games cost playoffs, and playoffs cost championships. And right now, the Chicago Bears are dangerously close to wasting a season that started with so much potential. What do you think about this? Do you believe Caleb Williams can recover from this mistake, or is it a sign he's still not ready for pressure moments? Leave your comment below. While the Bears try to recover from the devastating loss in Green Bay, the organization received another blow Monday morning. The Baltimore Ravens claimed linebacker Carl Jones Jr. off waivers, snatching away from Chicago a young player with defensive potential. And although Jones wasn't a starting star, his departure exposes a bigger problem: the lack of depth in the Bears' defense. Carl Jones Jr. is 24 years old and came to the NFL as an undrafted free agent from UCLA in 2024. The Bears signed him after the draft, but cut him at the end of the preseason. However, the organization saw something in him and added him to the practice squad. Later, Chicago brought him back on a futures contract for the 2025 season. Since then, Jones has been on and off the active roster, trying to earn a permanent spot on the defense. In 2025, Jones appeared in 9 games for the Bears. He recorded 11 tackles and 0 sacks. Those aren't spectacular numbers, but for an undrafted player trying to establish himself in the league, it's a decent start. Jones showed speed on special teams and had the ability to cover running backs in the open field. But clearly, the Bears didn't see enough value in him to keep him on the 53-man roster. Now the Ravens get Jones, and this isn't a coincidence. Baltimore has one of the best defenses in the NFL, and they're experts at finding unpolished talent and turning it into solid contributors. If anyone can maximize Carl Jones Jr.'s potential, it's the Ravens. And if Jones ends up becoming a key player for Baltimore, the Bears are going to regret letting him go. What makes this loss even more frustrating is the timing. The Bears are fighting to stay in the playoff race. The defense has been inconsistent all season long, and now they're losing depth at the linebacker position right when they need it most. Sure, Jones wasn't a starter, but in the NFL, injuries happen. Players get tired, and having fresh, talented bodies on the roster is crucial, especially in the final weeks of the season. The Ravens, on the other hand, are in a completely different position. Baltimore is fighting for first place in the AFC North Division. They have an elite defense led by linebacker Roquan Smith, who, by the way, played for the Bears before being traded to Baltimore. Now the Ravens are adding more young talent to their defensive unit. And if Jones can contribute on special teams or as a backup, Baltimore becomes even deeper and more dangerous. For the Bears, this is another sign that the organization is still trying to find its identity. Ben Johnson arrived as head coach with the promise of bringing discipline and a winning culture. But roster decisions like this raise questions. Why cut a young player with potential when defensive depth is a problem? Why not give him more opportunities to develop in the system? Or is it that Jones simply didn't fit into Johnson's plans? The reality is that in the NFL, teams make tough decisions every day. Not every player can stay on the roster. But when a team like the Ravens, known for their defensive excellence, claims one of your players, you have to wonder if you made a mistake. Because if Carl Jones Jr. ends up shining in Baltimore, the Bears are going to hear about this for years. And here's the other problem. The Bears already lost Roquan Smith in a controversial trade a couple of seasons ago. Smith has become one of the best linebackers in the league with the Ravens. Now Baltimore is claiming another former Bear in Jones. It's like the Ravens are using Chicago as their talent farm, and that's not a good look for an organization trying to build a playoff contender. Bears fans are tired of seeing talent leave for other teams. They're tired of questionable management decisions. And they're tired of seeing rivals like the Packers and Ravens take advantage of Chicago's mistakes. This loss of Carl Jones Jr. may seem minor in the grand scheme of things, but it's just another drop in the glass that's about to overflow. Now the Bears have to focus on what they can control. They have to win games. They have to keep their current roster healthy. And they have to hope that the personnel decisions they're making now don't come back to haunt them in the future. Because in the NFL, every player counts. And losing a young linebacker with potential to an elite team like the Ravens is never a good sign. If you thought Caleb Williams' interception was the worst thing about Sunday, think again. Because what happened with DJ Moore in Green Bay was just as devastating, only in a completely different way. The Chicago Bears' highest-paid receiver disappeared from the field like he was invisible. 1 catch. -4 yards. 3 total targets. And all of this in a game where starting receiver Rome Odunze was out with a foot injury. Moore should have been the star of the offense. Instead, he was a ghost. Ben Johnson admitted after the game that Moore's lack of production is something the team must address. The head coach said he thought Moore ran some pretty good routes during the game, but they just couldn't get him the ball. And here's the most shocking part. Johnson revealed that, going into the game, he believed they had more plays designed for Moore than for any other player on the offense. So when he saw the stat sheet at the end of the game and saw that Moore only had 1 catch, he was genuinely surprised. But here's the problem. This isn't an isolated incident. Moore has caught only 9 passes for 94 yards in the last 5 games. That's completely unacceptable for the team's highest-paid offensive player. The Bears are paying Moore millions of dollars to be the #1 receiver. And instead of dominating, he's disappearing in the most critical moments of the season. The game started with Moore seemingly open on a deep pass that Williams threw wildly off target. That play set the tone for the rest of the day. Williams couldn't find Moore, and when he did find him, the connection just wasn't there. Johnson seems to think his own play calling needs to change a bit in the future to better accommodate his passer and improve accuracy. Johnson talked about this after the game. He said he's been talking with Caleb over the last few weeks about how he can best serve him to get him in a rhythm early in games. Because when you're asking your quarterback for his first completion to be an 18-yard dagger route in tough conditions in a hostile stadium, that's not always the easiest thing. Sure, Williams is capable of making that throw. He does it all the time in practice, but they weren't able to execute it early in Sunday's game. And here's the irony. Williams heated up after a terrible first half. He completed 13 of 21 passes for 154 yards with a pair of touchdowns in the second half. But that process didn't include Moore. The star receiver remained invisible even when the offense finally found its rhythm. And that raises a serious question. Is it a scheme problem? Is it a chemistry problem between Williams and Moore? Or is it that Moore simply isn't playing at the level expected of him? Johnson also pointed out that the poor start on Sunday had another very familiar contributing factor: penalties. Darnell Wright's holding on 3rd and 5 killed the first offensive drive. The second drive was an opportunity from Green Bay's 36 after C.J. Gardner-Johnson's interception. But Colston Loveland's false start helped thwart that chance. Johnson was clear in his message. When you play good teams on the road, every little thing matters. All the details matter. The Bears started the offense with 2 penalties in the first 2 drives and didn't overcome them. And when you don't start well enough, you dig yourself a hole that's hard to climb out of. That's exactly what happened to Chicago on Sunday. Penalties were a problem during the first half of the season, and now they're popping up again at the worst possible time. The Bears are trying to make a final push for the playoffs. They can't afford mental mistakes. They can't afford stupid penalties. And they definitely can't afford for their highest-paid receiver to disappear from the field. Here's the reality. DJ Moore is a talented player. He's proven in the past that he can be a dominant receiver in the NFL. But talent only takes you so far. If you can't produce when your team needs you most, then it doesn't matter how much they're paying you. And right now, Moore isn't producing. Period. Bears fans are frustrated. They're tired of seeing Moore disappear in important games. They're tired of the excuses. And they're tired of losing. Because at the end of the day, the Bears paid a lot of money for Moore to be the #1 receiver. And if he can't meet that expectation, then the organization has to make tough decisions. Johnson said they're going to address this problem, but words mean nothing without action. The Bears need to find a way to involve Moore in the offense consistently. They need to design plays that put him in position to succeed. And Williams needs to find his star receiver when he's open, because if this continues, the Bears aren't just going to lose games. They're going to lose the confidence of their locker room, and they're going to lose any hope of making the playoffs. The next game is at home against the Cleveland Browns. The Bears desperately need a win, and they need DJ Moore to return to being the dominant player they know he can be. Because if Moore keeps disappearing, the Bears are going to keep losing. And in the NFL, losing in December means you're going home early, and nobody in Chicago wants that. The Chicago Bears are at a crossroads. Caleb Williams' interception, DJ Moore's disappearance, the loss of Carl Jones Jr. to the Ravens. All of this is happening at the same time, and the pressure on this organization has never been greater. With only 4 games remaining in the regular season, every play counts, every decision matters, and every mistake can be the difference between the playoffs and staying home. Bears fans deserve answers. They deserve to see their team fight until the end, and they deserve to see players like Williams and Moore step up when it matters most. Because if they don't, this season that started with so much hope will end in disappointment. And nobody in Chicago wants to live through that again. If you want to be the first to know the latest Bears news firsthand before anyone else, subscribe right now. Don't miss a single detail of what's happening with your team, because in the NFL, everything can change in an instant, and you need to be ready.